Did Will Howard get mossed on national TV?
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Holkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC your first listen every day. Whether you're going to watch this show on YouTube or wherever you want to download your podcast, this show is free, and I always appreciate your support. All 5,000 subscribers, thank you very much. Let's keep going. If you're watching this show on YouTube, become a subscriber. It's quick, it's easy, it's free. Click that red subscribe button. Smash that thumbs up button as many times as you can, and don't forget to hit that bell notification button. That way you don't miss an episode. Former Kansas State Wildcat quarterback Will Howard didn't even play in their bowl game. And despite what the ESPN graphic said during the Alamo Bowl, Howard is not committed to USC. Okay? He is not committed to USC. However, Miller Moss is. Miller Moss has always been committed to USC. Seems like ever since he was born. What Miller Moss did do was throw for 372 yards and 6 touchdown passes in his first start ever as a Trojans quarterback. I think he might have earned the QB1 status. So if you're Will Howard, do you even want to be the guy for 1 year at USC? I mean, do you want to be that guy who comes in as the ringer, the 1 year, paid warrior to lead the team to the promised land? Or do you want to be that guy who could possibly divide the locker room? I'm not calling Will Howard a cancer, okay? But let's not be naive here, party people who are willing to win at all costs. That type of locker room dynamic is real, especially in today's era of NIL. Okay, it wouldn't be a good look. I mean, at this point, if Lincoln Riley was to bring in a 1 year ringer, it literally could end up being a bigger mistake than keeping Alex Grinch. And we all know how big of a mistake that was, right? I'm going to be completely honest, and I'm staying consistent. I've said it multiple times before. I do not like the 1 year ringer quarterback out of the transfer portal. It's not my cup of tea. And let me ask Oklahoma fans who are watching the show. I'm not trying to rub it in. I know you had a rough night. Dillon Gabriel, how are you feeling about him after your bowl game? And I'm being really serious about this right now. I really hope Jackson Arnold's confidence wasn't destroyed. He had a good game, but man, 5 turnovers. And I know I know one of them wasn't his fault, but it turned into a pick 6. Nevertheless, the Dillon Gabriels and the Will Howards, they're not coming to programs to sit or compete for the backup spot, or to even compete for the starting role. Cam Ward did not leave Washington State to be paid to be someone else's clipboard holder. Will Howard is in that same boat. Okay, he didn't leave Kansas State to go somewhere else to sit or compete for a starting spot. But now he's probably waited too long. I mean, if he was waiting around to see how his competition at USC was going to fare on the big stage, and let's be honest, under less than ideal circumstances, I'm referring to, USC's roster numbers. They were down, 20 plus players? And we know the coaching changes they're going through right now. Then I think Will Howard miscalculated. And he definitely didn't do his homework, didn't do his research. How soon everyone forgets, including some Trojan fans who maybe forgot to do their own homework. Miller Moss was a top 100 player coming out of high school. He didn't flinch when Jackson Dart came in the same recruiting class with him, another top 100 quarterback in that class. he basically said, all right, Lincoln Riley's coming, cool. Caleb Williams coming with him. I'll get a chance to learn under Lincoln Riley and watch Caleb Williams for a couple of years. What did he do when Malachi Nelson committed to USC? Shrugged his shoulders. Who cares? What did he do next? He took a shot in the Holiday Bowl. And now it literally looks like, Malachi Nelson said, you know what? I saw enough during the season, during practice, to say, see you later. I think he saw what was coming. Here's Lincoln Riley's exact quote when he was asked if Moss did enough to secure the QB1 job for 2024. Quote, he did a great job. Shoot, he may have scared off anybody that would want to come here anyway, end quote. The way Coach Riley was delivering that message, he was serious, because now his job, he was serious in this regard, that his job of going to find a couple of quarterbacks in the transfer portal just got a lot more difficult. I said it earlier in the week on one of the episodes of Locked on USC. We're talking about the transfer portal quarterbacks that are available. Guys who I would consider. Go get the young man Belt Camp from Western Kentucky. That's the guy I talked about. Here's what Miller Moss's teammate, wide receiver Kyron Hudson, had to say. These were his thoughts. What Miller did out there is something that's going to help us in the future. So personally, yes, he did. I'm super excited for Miller. He waited his time. He's ready for it. And he's the guy that we need. He's referring to, did Miller do enough to earn the QB1 spot at USC going forward? Kyron Hudson believes he did. Other side of the ball. Here's what Bryson Shaw had to say. He literally saw the writing on the wall during practices. He called Moss a natural team leader. Guys really gravitate to him. He wasn't nervous at all. Talking to him, he's a cool, calm, collected guy. He's a killer, man. He's got ice cold veins, and he showed that tonight. But I said at the top of the segment that Moss was committed to USC, always has been. Coach Riley talked about, remember how I mentioned Coach Riley talked about evolving after the season and understanding what USC is all about? I think it sounds like it. Listen to what he said after the game. It's really, really important to me, the longer I coach and I'm going through this. I don't know it all, but having people around that this program is incredibly important to them, that's the key. And I think in this day and age, with all the movement, when you have guys like that, it's even more of an advantage than maybe it was 5 or 10 years ago, because it's becoming a little bit harder to find. Miller's had a passion for this university and a program for a long time, end quote. That last sentence alone is why you do not bring in a Will Howard type of player into the locker room for 1 year. Players, your teammates, they recognize passion, and when it's real. USC needs more players around in that locker room that understand what it means to be a Trojan. The rivalries between USC and UCLA, the rivalry between USC and Notre Dame. When your players, they can try, they can really immerse themselves in all the history and the tradition of USC, but you can't make it a part of your DNA in a year or less. You just can't. It's not something that you're born with. You have to learn it. You have to taste it. You have to feel it, the good and the bad. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home that winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. They have everything from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more, Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need and the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into that MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay. Guaranteed fit. Only available to U.S. customers. You know, on the show, you get a lot of in-depth analysis and hot takes, right? That's why you're here. Well, let me give you my hottest take of the day. The best lineup in LA right now is the lineup of auto loans at Logix. They start off at the top with one of my favorites, the proven and the dependable new and used vehicle loans. You can count on these guys to give you low rates and save you big time bucks. Next up, they've got an exciting new rookie sensation in their electric vehicle loans team. And they've got some super low rates and some flexible payment terms that you're really going to enjoy. Rounding out their lineup, they've got their auto refinancing loans and lease buyout loans. With these guys, you can lower your monthly payment and get on the road to owning your car faster. Look, I know it's a hot take, but seriously, no one can beat the lineup at Logix. Visit your local Logix branch right here in LA and the surrounding area and let one of their amazing team members help you. Or just apply online in minutes at logixbanking.com. That's LOGIX like X-ray banking.com. You really hate to see USC's football season end on such a high note. Really, we really do. I know I do. Don't misunderstand me. You want to end on a winning note. I mean, but how bad do we want to see this group of players play again? Like as soon as next week. You'll love the win. And because this team, the one that performed in the Holiday Bowl against Louisville, they gave you a taste of what the future could be. So, and that's why you don't want it to end. It's like, well, that tasted really good. And, you know, I didn't talk about him on yesterday's episode of Locked on USC, part of the Locked on Network, coming at you 5 days a week. But after the game, you know, I kind of just gave you an instant reaction of how I felt about the game right off the bat. I didn't even mention Taylor Mays' name. Coach Taylor Mays. He was put in charge of the safeties. And apparently he was also in charge of tackling class of 101. Go back and watch Anthony Beavers. Go watch the forced fumble. That was another OMG moment, and it was textbook. And so was the tackling in general. And because I mentioned Anthony Beavers' name, according to Pro Football Focus, I don't understand their grading system. So far, all the Power 5 safeties who have played in a bowl game, he's graded the highest across the board. That'll get it done. And former teammate Mekhi Blackman, he recognized it too. He's like, you know what? He got a shot, and I watched him do it in practice. Anthony Beavers is a dude. He's a man. He's a violent man playing in the secondary. I really hope he gets to carry that momentum over into 2024. He could be a big time asset next year. And like I said, the tackling in general across the board was so much better. Prophet Brown, cornerback, replacing Damani Jackson. He was targeted 5 times on the game. He gave up 3 catches. But you know what else he gave up? A total of 10 yards for those 3 catches. Again, tackling at the point of impact. There were no yards after the catch. So, I don't know, maybe Damani Jackson will watch Prophet Brown's film while he's on the airplane heading over to Alabama to play for Nick Saban for the next 2 years. If you haven't heard, Damani Jackson has committed to the University of Alabama. We wish him nothing but the best. One of my favorite players, Jude Wolf, he's got a new home. He's going to stay down there in San Diego and play for the Aztecs. Go get it, man. You have earned every right to be the starting tight end and to have another healthy season. Go get it. And thank you for sticking around and helping out your teammates when they needed you. Look, I brought it up on yesterday's episode, and I don't think everyone agrees with my interpretation of Jacoby Covington. Remember, now we a team. Remember that shout out he had at the end of the game out there on social media? I was in the right place at the right time. Really good video. Go check it out. Well, on yesterday's show, I said I was translating what Jacoby's visceral response was all about, and how he was explaining how the defense can say, look, we did our end of the bargain too. We did it. We heard you all year long. We're now part of the team. Well, his message, loosely translated, was we can put the game on our shoulders. We can help the offense. Basically, Jacoby recognized that all three phases of the team played together in the same game. And he was telling the fans that 42-28 victory, that was a team win. We a team. We a team now. Apparently, there's others out there, though, who are singing a little bit differently. And you know what? I can see where they're coming from. Because I think they do have a fair argument. Because I've kind of touched on this subject a little bit throughout the season. It's a fair argument because something looked and felt definitely different about Caleb Williams in year 2 compared to his Heisman season at USC. So, was there a locker room issue? Was Caleb Williams too into himself in 2023 when no one was looking? In other words, when the media wasn't around and when the cameras weren't on, was there a different side of Caleb that maybe his teammates saw that no one else saw? I'm not saying that Caleb was a bad teammate or he wasn't a leader in that clubhouse. Not saying that. But there's little things that family members notice about each other when you're around each other a lot. So it's fair to speculate. But again, I'm not going to go too deep down that rabbit hole. But again, there have been some rumblings through sources that, maybe favoritism was shown. And not just with regards to Caleb having a longer leash. Other high-profile players too might have had some. And when I say personality conflicts, I know that comes across negatively, but everybody has a different personality, and sometimes it takes longer to understand somebody's personality for everybody's to mesh together. So this is why I want to see another game, like as soon as next week. I want more Miller Moss and the 4 freshman wide receivers, Zachariah Branch, Deuce Robinson, Kobe Lane, Mekhi Lemon. I mean, can we talk about USC's offensive line's future? Elijah Page, left tackle. Emmanuel Prignon, left guard. Killian O'Connor, center. Jonah Monheim, right guard. Mason Murphy, right tackle. Excuse me. Behind them, you've got Alani Noah. You got Amos Talalele. You got Micah Banuelos, who, by the way, that young man loves the camera. He was mugging it up. I bring that up because I know he's got family who watches the show. Thank you very much. I appreciate you guys a lot. Hey, I didn't even mention Tobias Raymond's name yet. I just did. He doesn't get mentioned, but I'll tell you what. His size will be mentioned a lot when spring camp rolls around. So, am I saying let's acknowledge an almost perfect game from the offensive line? they weren't perfect. It was by far, I think their best performance as a team, as a unit. As far as I'm concerned, it was. I mentioned that Jonah Monheim was playing in his more natural position that's best suited for him, interior offensive lineman rather than left tackle. He was at right guard, and he looked great. And he looked great against a very good Louisville defensive line. And this is how he graded out, according to PFF, Pro Football Focus. 34 pass block snaps with 0 pressures allowed. That equated out to an 80.9 pass block rate. Why not an 81? What did he do wrong? He had 34 pass block snaps, and no one got by him. There was no pressure felt by Miller Moss. To me, that's like perfect, right? So, hello, Pro Football McFly. Explain your grading system, please. Jarrett Kingston. He used up his last year of eligibility at USC. He graded out 84.2 pass blocking grade with 0 pressures allowed. Okay. I don't know. Did Miller Moss make the offensive line's job easier because there was less improvising? Look, I think they're going to benefit the most from this upcoming offseason, the offensive line. They got an idea of what it feels like to play. Now they just know they've got to go get bigger and stronger and get better in the run game. Heading to the big conference, that's going to be a necessity. It's going to be a priority. I'm not concerned about the pass blocking. I'm not concerned about USC being able to put up 40 points a game. They did it with a skeleton roster, quarterback starting for the first time, and a makeshift offensive line. So let's get it done in the offseason. But like I said, you want to end the season on a winning note, and they did, but you hate to end the season now on a winning note. It had been so long since USC had played so well and came home with a victory that, you know what, it's like, I'm hungry for more. I want to gorge. It's a holiday season, right? You're supposed to add some weight. So let's add another win. If somebody out there want to play another game, give me a call, see what I can do. See if I can arrange it. PrizePicks is the largest independently owned daily fantasy sports platform in North America. They're the easiest and the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's just you against the numbers. Instead of battling thousands of other players, all you have to do is pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and then you'll check out your bank account. Check out the money that's rolling in. And now, with the basketball season here, you can now pick a combo projection for across football and basketball from the Specials League. It's a league that was created specifically for a combo projections that includes 2 or more players from different sports or leagues. For example, Anthony Davis from the Lakers, Amon-Ra St. Brown from the Detroit Lions at 15.5 combo, rebounds and receptions. You're going to simply pick more than or less than. PrizePicks even offers you a reboot policy so that your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. So for football and basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and doesn't return in the second half, that player is rebooted. PrizePicks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy. So go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege and use code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege. Use code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. It's here, Friday. What does that mean? Third segment, Friday's Rant. USC won their bowl game. All three phases of the team, they contributed. Okay? I mean, you had turnovers. You had tackling on the defense. You had tackles for losses. You had sacks. They beat UNLV at their own game. The offense did what they were supposed to do, except for run the ball. But they didn't have to. Miller Marsh was throwing touchdowns like they were going out of style. Even Lincoln Riley had some fun. I mean, he took a chance. He exhaled. He learned from his Alex Grinch mistake, hopefully. And look, tell me he wasn't having a good time coaching. You saw he opened the game with what, that end around reverse. Didn't work out, but hey, you know what? You like that. Did you like when he went big balls Lincoln Riley going for it on 4th and 2 with Jake Jensen? 2 yards and 6 inches later, the drive was still alive. And he took an eggnog bath. Kind of gross, but you know, there's a first for everything. All of that. The team had fun. They won. Everybody was having a good time. Yet there are still some of you out there who still find the need to be some miserable SOBs. Yeah. Look, when someone is entertaining you and you're not paying for anything you're not paying for any of the entertainment other than maybe with your time. In other words, if you're sitting on your butt on the couch watching the game on TV, shut up, smile, pretend you're entertained. There were so few things to cry or whine about in the Holiday Bowl win that literally those holiday SOBs, they found a way to take their angst and their anger, and they just said, Dennis Lynch, I'm coming after you. You sound like a Grinch. Lynch, Grinch, we're going to take it on you. Look, no one has to tell Dennis that he's had a rough 2023. His latest field goal attempt from 38 yards was a miss. But can we please lay off the personal attacks? The mean vitriol, it's not necessary. It doesn't accomplish anything. You might feel good for, a few minutes in your anonymity on the internet, but that's why the internet kind of sucks. How you feel about someone's performance, that's fine. No one is going to argue that Dennis hasn't pulled his own weight this year. But that's where the comparison should end. The next thing out of someone's mouth or when they're typing shouldn't be about his height or his weight. Okay, go back to the top of the segment. If someone serves you a steak and it's not perfect, but it still tastes great, shut up, smile, pretend it's perfect. I mean, if you wanted it rare, but it showed up medium rare, just eat it. It's going to taste okay. You're going to be fine. It's going to be satisfying. It's a steak. Look, last night, USC football wasn't perfect, but it was as close as it ever was during this past season. Right? I think that was USC's best game. All three phases. For 60 minutes. Or almost for 60 minutes. You should be savoring every last bite instead of saying, yeah, well, if Beer Keg Lynch would have made his field goal. Look, I get it. Some of you look like Barney Rubble and think you're Adonis, and that gives you the right to pick on Dennis Lynch. Knock that crap off. Just stop. Season's over. You don't need to act like that. Let Oregon fan, let Oklahoma fan, not all of them, just a good bunch of them who like to make their presence known on the internet. Let them act like that. You don't have to be like that. And I got to get this little mini rant off my chest before we get out of here for the week. USC hoops, men's hoops, Coach Enfield. I've already watched one season wasted in 2023. Let's not do our best to make football feel that much better about themselves. That was another poor effort you guys threw up there up in Eugene against the Ducks. And look, despite your fight on, you came back, you made a game of it. This season might be over already. I'm going to get more into the hoops team next week. But yeah, that was rough. They're 6-6 on the season right now. I don't know what Coach Enfield's going to do. They got to get better, and they got to get better really fast, or the basketball season could end up going to the tank, just like the football season. And I'm not sure how Andy Enfield's going to deal with that throughout the season, and if he'll survive after this season with that. If USC with this roster doesn't make the NCAA tournament, yeah. Like I said, we'll get more into that as we get into the basketball season more, and we move away from football. But again, I'll be back with another episode of Locked on USC on Monday, New Year's Day. So if you've got the time, I'll be here for you. We'll talk more about the Holiday Bowl win, any other USC football news that's going on. And a real quick shout out to the Spirit of Troy. Sione, thank you. I'm still humbled. Appreciate you. So until then, everyone, you know what to do.